I had to go outside today to do this. I just feel very, claustrophobic in the house right now. It's been 5 days since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I wanted to come on my channel and say something right out of the gate, but I needed some time to think about everything. And boy, have my emotions, like I'm sure yours have, gone through the gamut this week of shock and horror and begging God for it not to be true, and just extreme grief for Charlie's wife and children. But then really shock and horror and grief over the way so many people are reacting to this. And sorry, my cat's bumping the chair where I have the camera. What do you even say? I think I want to start by telling you something that I did that I'm ashamed of. And that is that, as I've mentioned in other videos, I really want everyone in my world to be okay with me. I don't like conflict at all. I don't like to argue. I don't like trouble. I just want peace. I just want still waters in my world. And so I'm pretty careful about what I put on Facebook because I'm trying not to stir up trouble. But all I did was to post a little a tribute to Charlie, where I showed a picture of him with a quote from R.C. Sproul, I think it was, that all that death can do to the believer is deliver them to Jesus, which I think is a beautiful quote. And at the top I wrote, "We know two things for certain. One, Charlie has seen the face of God. And two, he was welcomed home with the words, 'Well done, good and faithful servant.'" And it wasn't anything that should have been antagonistic, but I did get a response from someone who has never commented on my Facebook or messaged me or anything. We just have one person in common. But he took this opportunity to, what looked like, try to start an argument with me. And it's so interesting, when I was teaching with my own women at church and when I've done retreats, I like to remind the women that Satan only has a few tricks and he uses them over and over. And the first one he ever used in his attack against God's children was what he did with Eve in Genesis, where he said, "Did God really say you couldn't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Did God really say?" And that is one of his favorite tricks, one that he uses over and over. And on this attack that happened, and I'm going to call it that because I don't know, am I weird? I have never, to my memory, ever gone on anyone's page and tried to start a fight with them. I just feel like you can put whatever you want on your Facebook. That's your Facebook. And I would never assume that I'm going to just, take someone down a notch by writing on their page. I don't get that. But when this person tried to argue with me late at night, I did feel attacked because I found myself, instead of being able to just grieve what I felt that I and all of us collectively had lost, I was having to try to defend Charlie against some words that were taken out of context. And that's just another version of, did God really say? I mean, Charlie's words aren't the Lord's words, but anytime someone is being attacked by having their words questioned or taken out of context, it really does come across that way. Did he really say? Although he wasn't asking me, did he really say this? What he was doing was taking a sentence out of context and wanting to blow that up. To me, it's all the same thing. But it was late and I wanted to go to bed, and I tried to continually remind this person that it's the violence that is horrific, just like the violence against that woman on the train who was stabbed, that Ukrainian refugee. I referenced that to him and I said, I find that horrible as well. And that was a knife, But I got out of the conversation. Another friend came in and picked up his last argument, and it was over. And I was glad because, like I said, still waters. That's my battle cry. That sounds odd, but what I want in this world is still waters. And when I woke up, though, I shared someone else's post that was just another, again, it was nothing to incite anger or hostility, but I had a comment on there from a boy who, he's not a boy anymore, he's a man, but I met him in 2007 in Siegen, Germany, when Dave was teaching at the Bible college there for 3 weeks. And nice boy, you know, he was really helpful to us, and we just kept in touch a little bit, but we really never talked beyond the first few months after that. But we've been Facebook friends all this time. And I didn't realize how far his life had drifted in the wrong direction. But he posted something, a meme that was to contradict what I had posted about Charlie. And it just so frustrated me. I went to his site. I looked at just a few posts, a few things he had said that were mocking the situation. And I went and I did something I can't remember doing in a very long time, but never for this reason. Out of frustration, I unfriended him. And the last time I remember doing that was not because I was angry at anyone. It was because I had too many people on there and I really didn't know all of them. I had a lot of people on there that had friend requested me because I had taught at a retreat. And they feel like they know you after you've spent, 4 or 5 teaching sessions of an hour sharing your heart with them, but you really don't know who they are. And sometimes the friend request is accepted and then it's over. You never talk to them again or anything. But I was just feeling overwhelmed, like, Lord, my soul was not created to carry this many relationships. And so I think in one night, I just deleted about 600 people that I couldn't even tell you who they were. I had no conversation with them ever in my life. And I felt bad doing that, but I felt horrible the other night when I unfriended this boy. But I didn't feel horrible at first. You know what my first thought was? As soon as I had done that, I thought, who's next? Because I felt powerful. I felt like I had control for the first time in 5 days with hearing all the hatred that's out there. I thought, all right, who's next? Who am I going to do after this one? And almost immediately when that thought came to me, I thought, this is exactly what the enemy wants. Satan wants all of us in our, respective corners, not mingling, not communicating, not doing what Charlie loved to do, which was to bring truth out through discourse and debate, but he did it in a very gentlemanly way. But I thought, this is playing right into the enemy's hands, because that boy, although I'm going to refer to him as a boy, he's probably, 35, 40, maybe, I don't know anymore. I don't know now, but what that person had not ever done, which was to have any kind of communication with me, nor I with him, until the other night when he posted that, I realized he at least had seen my post about Charlie. And what if I could be a sprinkling of salt and light to him? What if I could have made a difference by something I said down the road? It really struck me that I had shut off that opportunity. And I almost did it with a handful of other people who I was frustrated by. And I talked to Dave about it. And I just told him, I'm so frustrated, but here's what I did, and here's what I almost did. And Dave always gets right to the point. He's so good. He goes, Shani, he said, the next time someone does something like that, just tell them God loves you and I'm praying for you. And if they come back with something else, all you have to say is thank you, because now I know specifically what to pray for you. And so I didn't delete anyone else. And I don't know if I want to go in and friend request this person again. It almost feels funny because we really have no conversation at all. Or if I'm just going to let that pain in my heart just hang out there so that I don't go down that road again. Because that is our temptation. With all this hatefulness, we want to tuck into the people who agree with us and ignore all the ones that disagree. And that is exactly the opposite of what Charlie Kirk did. He specifically went out to the ones that he knew did not agree with him, the ones who were being fed a lot of hateful rhetoric in their universities by professors that can only be described as tools in the hand of Satan. And he wanted to use truth to bring them to a different possible mindset. And so I'm not going to do that again. I am going to look at all the people that I continually still are seeing spew all this hateful rhetoric. And to me, Dave's right. They basically have just told me that they need prayer. They may as well have a sign over their heads or that they're holding on to saying, I'm lost. I'm at the mercy of the enemy. Please send rescue. I mean, that really may as well be what people say when they show us how hateful they are. You know, something is up. I don't know if you feel it, but something is up. God is on the move, and I feel like we're right on the verge of something happening. And I don't know what this death is going to do. I feel like the intention of the boy that did the shooting, and he needs our prayers too, but I feel like his intention was to snuff out the fire that was in Charlie, but all he did was stomp on a glowing ember and send sparks flying in all directions. Because that's what I'm seeing, is that many people are realizing things like I realized, that the enemy wants us in our different camps, but the only way we're going to win a soul to Jesus is to be willing to be a voice that's in front of them speaking the truth. And I'm committed to that. The other thing that I realized over this whole situation was that, and I've mentioned this also in another video, about how I don't want anyone to not be on good terms with me. And so I'm shocked when my very liberal friends from school mostly just blurt out whatever they want to say, you know, and they don't really care that it might cause a problem for their conservative friends. I mean, they don't seem to mind saying those things. And yet here I am, I'm very cautious about what I do say because I don't want to offend or cause a fight with someone that has a different mindset. And what I realize is fighting is not my nature. It's not my default. I would rather walk away from a situation than fight. I mean, I will. If I'm pushed in a corner, I know how to do that. But my goal is always, let's just get out of this as fast as we can. But I have determined that I want to take a stand whenever and wherever I can take a stand, and that I want to live my life for an audience of one, whatever that means. And if it causes people to not like me, to unfriend me, to be angry at me, to want to try to argue with me, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to bring people to Jesus, and I needed to be reminded of that. I'm flying to Phoenix on Friday to be with my friends Dan and Lisa and go to the memorial for Charlie on Sunday. I just want to be there, and I want to be with other people who are grieving the way I am, because we're all in our little isolated places right now, but on Sunday we're all going to be together. And I want to honor the life of Charlie Kirk, who was a loving man. And if you are of a different ideology, a different persuasion, and you want to argue that point, I would say, please go read what he has said in context, because the little pieces that people are pulling out here and there can look bad, but honestly, anything any of us say can look bad if you take them out of context. So please read in its entirety what these statements really are. My sweet friend Sandy, who is my oldest friend in the world from 3rd grade back in Heavener, Oklahoma. Hi, Sandy. She wrote a beautiful post in which she made the premise that we all had parents and we were taught things growing up or by our parents that maybe we didn't like and we didn't approve of. It didn't fit with what we wanted to do, but we were corrected as children lovingly because there were rules, there were absolutes in the family that we had to follow. And sometimes we were annoyed at that. Well, people wanted to be annoyed at Charlie, not because he was political. And I don't even think it was because he was conservative. I think what people were kicking against was that Charlie was expressing God's opinion on a lot of matters that our culture has tried to erase or twist. And so Sandy wrote this beautiful post, and at the end she said, I would ask you, are you mad at Charlie or are you mad at God? And I think that really is the heart of the issue. I think people are chafing at being told what God's opinions are on things that they might feel differently about. But I always think about the fact that we've had many cars in our marriage, and every single one of them came with a manual, and I never read any of them on purpose, but I'm pretty sure there's a line in every car manual that says, do not put sugar in the gas tank. I don't know. Maybe it's not in there, but I'm pretty sure there's some mention of that. And I feel like that's what God's rules are like. He is the creator and the maker of us, and he knows what is best for us. And I might argue with the car manufacturer and say, well, I run on sugar, and so if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for my car. But God knows it's not. And so there are things that God has said no to that are very clearly spelled out in Scripture, because he wants what's best for us, and he knows what's best for our souls. And I think sometimes people they don't like being told what to do, even if the one telling them is God himself through his word. So maybe think about that if you're annoyed at some of the things that Charlie said, because if Charlie said anything that was contrary to the word, I wouldn't support him. No Christian that I do know would have supported him or watched him. But it is the word of God. And so if you're upset, ask yourself, are you mad at Charlie or are you mad at God? They literally killed the messenger in this situation. And I heard this young boy, Tate Emmons, he's got a future ahead of him, say that he feels that Charlie is the first martyr. And I think he might be right about that. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think things are going to get better. All we can hope for is that from now until the day that Jesus comes back for us, you and I gather as many souls as we can to bring before the Lord. So God bless you, and I pray that wherever you are in this process, you can just spend time with the Lord and lift it up to him, because I know he has things he wants to say to you, just as he had things he wanted to say to me. I'll see you next time.